Hi, I'm Megan Young, and this is It's a Journey, where I'm going to highlight different stories, real life people, from grief to career. So these first few episodes are going to focus on the grief journey, hoping that you can gather some tips, some likability of where you don't feel alone, because grief is a tough journey and so unpredictable. So come along with me as we dive into journeys that will hopefully give you inspiration. Hi, Matt. Thanks for being with me today. We are talking about our loss and our grief journey. And, I know that everyone has someone significant, but there's also, or many people, I should say, that are significant that they've lost. But there's sometimes just people that one person that really defined us and helped us through our life. And I want you to just explain, your loss and who you lost and kind of your journey, how long it's been so far.
Yeah. So in August of 2016, I lost my mother to cancer. It was a battle she had fought for, several months, years. But when it came back full force. And at that point, it was pretty much, a foregone conclusion that it was going to end up being fatal. So she battled it as hard as she could, and it was inspiring. It was I admired everything about it, but she succumbed to it in August 2016. It was really the first time I really lost someone significant. I guess my grandparents. I had a couple of grandparents pass when I was younger, but it was to lose your mother at such a young age. It was extremely difficult and hard for me and my entire family.
Well, I feel like every loss is very important, and I don't think that there's a scale for it, but I have found that with parents there's layers that are kind of unlike any other loss, that because you do kind of relive it when things happen, like having your children. And was she able to see your kids?
So she met my oldest, Stella. Stella had just turned 1, and really kind of the last few pictures that we have as a family was from my daughter's first birthday party.
Okay.
So that was a really special time.
And you take your time. And does she, as far as where she lives in how you do things in life, was she, has she kind of, now that you look back, just how has she helped formed your life in the way that you now know? I think we all kind of look at our parents and go, okay, I have similarities. They definitely raised me, but there is this reflection time we have when someone passes. Is there anything, that you feel really is vibrant in your life that she gave you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for starters, my work ethic. I'm an extremely hardworking individual. I always have been, regardless of whether it was a college job or my career now. I feel like I'm extremely invested and passionate about what I do. She was extremely athletic. I feel like I get that from both my mom and my dad, but the competitiveness, right, is something that I've always had. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm one of the more competitive people that they know. I don't want to lose. I don't like to lose. And I think that she ingrained that in me at a very early age.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you say she fought, it's, that's kind of that piece of her that you can always remember. So you said that this was kind of your first significant loss, or just the one that's, obviously you lose a parent, it's so impactful, but do you feel that there was a surprise to it when you lose her? Was there something that surprised you about grief that kind of hit you, or do you feel that, okay, you knew what grief looked like in some way, you might have seen someone, but Was there something that surprised you about people or how you reacted to it?
Well, I mean, I think everybody expects to have a support network, whether it be friends or family. But I was really kind of surprised by how fast people kind of ran to you, you know.
Okay.
And I'm not just talking about my immediate friends. I mean, I had friends from high school that I hadn't seen in 15 years. I hadn't talked to in 15 years call me, that were there for me, you know, during the celebration of life that we did. I had relatives that I hadn't talked to in 10 years. All of a sudden they were around and, you know, there to give you a hug and support you and my brothers and my dad. But the flip side of that, like something that kind of didn't surprise me, but is how fast everything kind of returns to normal for them, you know,
Yes.
and then that support network for you is almost, it's not like it's not there. It's just that it's not nearly as big. Right.
Yeah.
So now instead of being able to rely on, you know, all of these people, and maybe it was just the fact that, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you. How have you been? Almost like, you know, like sorry for your loss, but you know, we're here for you and all that. But once all that kind of like worn off and faded, it was, you know, just my immediate family, my wife, my kids, my brothers, my dad. So it was kind of like the flip of it. It was nice to have it, but then everything kind of returns to normal quick. And now what?
Right, exactly. So what was your now what? Did you find that it was just having your, you know, your wife and your kids that really kind of helped like in a therapeutic way? Or have you sought any kind of different therapy or read books or anything like that?
No, I don't. I never did. I mean, I'm sure if you ask my wife, she'll tell you that she suggested seeking some, you know, someone to talk to professionally.
Sure.
Several times to me. But no, I've never really seeked anything. I just kind of wouldn't say bottled it up, but you know, just try to deal with it, you know, on my own. But I got to be honest, kids are great. My daughters are fantastic. My wife is amazing. And so they were kind of like the ones that, you know, kind of helped me through those difficult times.
Yeah. And I think that that's kind of the theme that I see, that there's always like, at least, you know, even if you aren't, you know, seeking any kind of professional help, that if you have a good immediate support system, that it is worth so much more. And a lot of people don't have that, you know. So I think that the one thing that I talk about in Life After Loss workbook is that, you know, you really have to create your community, like where you feel comfortable, you know, being yourself when you feel bad, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was fortunate, you know. It happened at a period in my life where, you know, I had to, you know, you couldn't really. It's not like I just put it to bed, but you know, I had so many things happening. I have a 1-year-old daughter. You know, you know, me and my wife are still trying to establish, you know, our family, our home. You know, and so there's a lot going on, and it's a distraction. But there are times where, you know, when things would settle down, or it could be a movie, or it could be a commercial, a laugh, it could be anything, and a picture, and it just snaps right back, and you're left, you know, again, to your point, not everybody has that. I was fortunate enough to have it, and I was able to lean on my wife, or, you know, pick up my 1-year-old, or you know, play with them to kind of get my mind off of it, or kind of work through those thoughts and feelings.
Yeah. Well, I think now that you know, you kind of are I think the first year is always just, you never know. You just never know what you're going to be facing and what's going to be established at that point. I mean, a lot of life decisions could be thrown your way, or, you know, like you said, it just keeps going, right? And so I've noticed that your behavior in that first year for people is very important to observe. Was there anything that you felt like in that first year that you either didn't make a decision, or you just did you kind of settle back into this is going to be a rough one, the first Christmas, the first everything, and then,
Yeah, it was. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
The first year is definitely going to be a tough one. But I never really knew like what those triggers were going to be.
Okay.
Yep. And so, a great example, Christmas Eve, we always did, the family thing, and then we'd watch Christmas Vacation. And it was my mom's favorite movie. And, I cried myself through the entire movie the first year.
Yeah.
And like it got to the point where year two, I don't even think we watched Christmas Vacation. I think the rest of my family were just like, we're not going to put Matt through that again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a good point. It's kind of like, do you take on the traditions? Do you keep those? Like, what are you comfortable with? It's not your forever, but what are you, because later on you could bring back that. But yeah. I think that you do what you can to minimize the triggers as well, because you're in this period of time that's really sensitive, Mm-hmm. So how do you?
Well, the triggers were something that you didn't want to face. Well, at least I didn't want to face, because it obviously is upsetting. But as time goes on, you realize that some of those things that you established, or that we established with my mom, are things that I want my kids to experience with us. And so I feel like it's necessary for you to maybe find a way or modify some of those things to make sure that you don't lose sight of those good times.
Right. Yeah.
So it's some more than others. There's some things that still don't bother me. Picture doesn't bother me, but it's stuff like that. It's a movie. It's something that you would never. Like, I can see a picture of my mom and not get upset. I can't watch a movie without getting upset. You know what I mean? So it's really weird, and you don't know what's gonna be that trigger. You might be having a bad day, and something that wasn't a trigger is now a trigger, and then you might be having a great day, and just a memory or a thought just
comes on strong.
And you just don't know how to act.
Yeah. It's always a song for me. There was a song that, but do you now feel that you are in a position where you can you want to talk about her more, or was there a time where you didn't want to talk, and then because it was just kind of like the uncomfortable, or just the point of just, I don't know, there would be a time and a place type situation, or do you just you want to talk about, or you want that to be present in your life? How did you take that?
Well, I mean, I think at first it was tough for me to, express what I'm going through. It's who I am. I kind of kept quiet, kind of kept it to myself, which I think is, a pretty dangerous thing. Mm-hmm. But when I did talk about it was usually with, my wife.
Sure.
Now that my daughters are getting older, we show them pictures, and I'm trying to collect myself.
No, you're fine. Well, I wonder, it does bring, it brings me to another question, that because you do have siblings, you may have kind of held back on speaking about it at first. How did everyone else react? Is everyone grieving differently in your home, like your immediate family?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think my younger brother kind of took it like I did, got real emotional.
Yeah.
He was probably a little bit more on the side that, he wanted to, show his love, I guess. He wanted to talk about it a lot more. I think, he got a tattoo,
Okay. Yeah.
My older brother was our rock. He stepped up, he was calling the shots. He handled business. He said, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're not going to do. This is, kind of how we're going to deal with it. Hey, sorry.
It's okay. Sorry. She's fine.
But Ben stepped up to the plate, because I mean, to be quite honest, I couldn't. I wasn't emotional emotionally strong enough to.
Yeah.
And my dad was, he was a Rockwell. We got kind of our passion and enthusiasm about everything from him. And so, he was able to remain real strong throughout the whole process. And everybody had their moments, but, I think they were more in a position where they could, talk about it and honor her and stuff, where I was just kind of like, okay, I need some time. I need to process this myself.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think that, we do have, if it's not a sibling, someone in the family that can kind of even out, because there's a lot of responsibilities afterwards, and so having just your family to help guide you. And the thing about it, I think that you have such a great family dynamic where you have, your brothers and your wife who is amazing. And, I think if you were looking at other people who didn't have this, what would you say? Because you said that being silent could be dangerous. So let's say no one has, someone doesn't have anyone in their life. Would you kind of have like a suggestion for them?
I really feel like it depends on the person. I look back on everything and I realize that, there's no right or wrong way to get through a process, and you feel like, especially if you haven't lost anybody, you feel like you have an idea of the way things are supposed to go, but in all reality, you really don't have any idea like how you're going to respond to something, right? Yeah. And, to your point, the first year is going to be bad. The second year is going to be better. The third year might be even worse because there might be an anniversary involved or whatever the case is. But there's no right or wrong way to respond to, death and or to losing somebody. So I felt like when it first happened, well, my older brother is stepping up to the plate and he is, remaining strong. That means I have to do the same. Well, that's not right.
Right.
You're putting yourself, you're trying to force something that really isn't there. And so you it's okay to be quiet. It's okay to not talk about things if that's your process. But, you're going to have moments where you're going to want to talk to somebody and, you're going to have times where, that are more difficult than others. But I would seek, someone to talk to in those moments. It's not like you have to do it every single day or every week or every month or really every year, but you will have moments that come up and they're going to hurt. And it's just a matter of, how you handle those situations, and I feel like whether it be a friend or a relative or a wife or a daughter or something, you got to find a way to, you got to find an outlet to express yourself or talk about it or vent, because if not, then it's just not healthy for you, physically, mentally, it's just not good.
Well, I love the point you just made, which is, owning and really understanding your own grief. And so, because a lot of people will try to change that in you. Some people are going to expect things, but it's not their grief, it's your grief. And so, how you grieve from your brother, how I grieve from my sister, it's just going to be different. And I love that it's okay. That is probably one of the best, pieces of advice that I've heard, that you've shared also, and that I live by as well. But I know this was difficult. Speaking about someone, hopefully this, gives a little warmth to your soul, that you were able to shine a light on your mother, who is so special to you.
Honestly, I really started to get emotional when you start to think about like my girls and my wife.
Yeah.
That's when stuff started to really, hit home. But anyways.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey.
And thanks for having me, Megan.